This was one of the most special experiences of my life, coming face to face with wild mountain gorillas in Uganda. In this video, I'll show you exactly what the experience was like, how it works, what to expect, and whether it's actually worth it. So firstly, why Uganda? Well, there are only 3 countries on Earth where you can see wild mountain gorillas: Uganda, Rwanda, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Hardly anyone goes to the Congo for obvious reasons, and most people talk about Rwanda. But we chose Uganda for one simple reason, and that was the price. It was significantly cheaper than the permit in Rwanda. It was $800 compared to the $1,500 it costs in Rwanda. And the actual gorilla trekking experience is the exact same. Uganda was a very interesting country for both good and bad reasons, but I'll save that for another video. So, to give a very brief background, gorilla trekking takes place in Bwindi Impenetrable National Park in Uganda. Around half of the world's remaining gorillas live here, and it's around 400 in total, spread across several trekking sectors. We visited the Rushaga sector, which is in the southern area of Bwindi and home to the highest population density in the park. Okay, so what can you expect on the day, and how does gorilla trekking actually work? Well, your guide will drive you to the meeting point for around 8 or 9 am. Depending on where you're staying, this could be a very early start for you. For us, the drive took about an hour and a half on African massage type roads, so it took a while. Once you arrive, your guide will take care of the check-in, including all your passport details, while you'll meet all the other tourists, and everyone waits and watches a local dance group perform traditional dances. Now, the exciting bit begins. You're split into groups of around 8 people, generally based on age or fitness, as some groups will have to hike further than others. Each group has a tracker, armed rangers, and any porters that you've hired. Now, one thing I would definitely recommend is hiring a porter. So even though my wife and I are both in our early 30s and in, I like to think, good shape, we hired one. So it'll cost around $25 plus a tip, but the money goes directly to the local community and the porters are incredibly grateful for the work. So most people in our group hired one, and I'd strongly recommend you do the same. The porters will carry your bag, help you over the tougher sections, and make the hike much easier. And honestly, don't think you're too fit or strong, you will appreciate the extra help. So you'll be hiking through dense tropical rainforest, often on steep, muddy terrain and no proper paths. So make sure to wear long sleeves, breathable clothing, sturdy walking boots, and take plenty of water with you and any snacks you might want. However, every trek is different because nobody knows exactly where the gorillas will be. They're wild animals, and they build a new nest every night and they're constantly on the move. But your trackers will head out before your group to locate them, and their movements are still unpredictable. Despite that, there's a 95% chance you'll find them. In our case, we hiked for about an hour and a half to get there, just over 3 kilometers, before finally coming face to face with them. So then finally, we found them. It was nothing short of absolutely astonishing seeing the first gorilla face to face. Our trackers guided us towards the rangers, and then, almost out of nowhere, there it was, completely content, just chilling in the middle of the rainforest by itself, happily munching away. I was genuinely taken aback, and it was such a surreal experience. Then, again seemingly out of nowhere, more gorillas started appearing, and before long we were surrounded by about 6 or 7 of them. The juveniles were particularly interested in us. They'd come right up to investigate and check us out, although they usually lost interest pretty quickly. The adults, meanwhile, were completely unfazed by us. They were totally habituated to humans. And then the big man arrived, the silverback. Now trust me when I say the footage does not do him justice. He was monstrous, incredibly imposing. We all had to catch our breath as he slowly came heaving through the forest, effortlessly pushing aside anything in his path. He was about twice the size of any other gorilla there, and he just had this formidable, commanding presence that was honestly a wonder to behold. Now, understandably, the rangers were much more cautious around him, and we kept much further back than we did with the other gorillas. But despite how intimidating he looked, he was as calm as anything. He just kept to himself and wasn't bothered by us in the slightest. So all in all, you get about 1 hour with the gorillas, which is the maximum amount of time you're allowed to spend with them. Coincidentally, ours were actually starting to move on just about as the hour was coming to an end. But this brought one final very happy surprise. We saw a baby. As the family started following the silverback, a mother appeared with this tiny baby that we hadn't even seen before. It was incredibly cute. You could just see the tiny little feet poking out from behind its mother's back as they followed the rest of the group. So, is gorilla trekking worth it? For me, absolutely. It's definitely not cheap, and depending on where the gorillas are, it can be quite a tough day. But getting to see these animals this close in the wild is genuinely something I will never forget. And whether you're an animal person or even just a nature person, I would 1000% recommend to do it. Importantly, the money you spend on permits helps fund the conservation of the gorillas and the protection of the park, while tourism provides jobs for the local community. So it's a very sustainable practice. So although the price might seem steep, there's a good reason for it. I've been lucky enough to travel to some incredible places, but this was one of the most special experiences I've ever had. And if gorilla trekking is something that you're considering doing yourself, I really hope this video has given you a good idea of what to expect. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have in the comments, and thank you so much for watching the video. See you next time.